Howdy, I'm Jim King of the Road. Stay with me as we zoom off to Beverly Hills, California to talk to the living legend, Pat Boone. King of the Road. The legendary Pat Boone. I've been looking forward to this for a long time to get you see you face to face and almost in the flesh, but because of the miracles of technology, here we are zooming to Beverly Hills today.
And this is real flesh right here. I can testify. And I've even got real hair too if I keep my hat on.
You are amazing. 70 years. You've been doing this longer than I've been alive, Pat.
Yes. My first record was 1955. And that goes back a whale of a long way. And so that is 70 years of recording.
It's the legendary Pat Boone. He put out a new album recently called Country Jubilee. And we've played your videos here recently on our TV show, the Jim King of the TV show. We played Grits recently. What a fun song. Played that a couple of times. And also You and I with Crystal Gale, a tribute to your wife, Shirley.
Yeah, thanks for mentioning that because it's so great of Crystal and her husband to want to make a new record. She'd had that huge hit with Eddie Rabbitt, but he'd been gone 20 years or more, and they wanted for there to be a new version. So they cast around, who can we get to do it with you? And somehow they decided they'd like me to do it. So I did, and I'm very proud of it. And then while we were doing it, if you see the video of us right after we had recorded it and were recording it, there's a bond that crept into the performance. She and I was feeling very emotional about it. So was she. We had already agreed that we would dedicate it to my wife, Shirley, who'd been gone, 4 years now. Yeah. And of course, for me, it was about Shirley. But at the same time, by proxy, I was feeling a very strong bond with Crystal. She's so pretty, singing so well. We were doing that song. And I felt very emotional doing that, and I think she did too. So there was a bond between she and myself, but it was by proxy with Shirley, my wife. And it was so sweet of Crystal to let us have a picture of Shirley at the end of it.
Wonderful song, great performance, great video, originally done by Eddie Rabbitt. And you did this song called Grits. Did you have a hand in writing that? Tell us about that song. That's such a fun tune. I love it.
I wrote the whole thing, and I can't take full credit. I've got to give God some credit because It happened. It came to me in a dream. And Jimmy, I was somewhat chagrined for a long time at not being considered a country artist, though I had recorded multiples of country songs in all my albums. But the focus had always been on the rock and roll, the movie themes, patriotic gospel, even jazz. And they weren't, my own home folks in Nashville weren't considering me a country artist. So now, a couple of years ago, I had this dream. And in my dream, I was having a big country hit. People were congratulating me on it. And I was even hearing some of it in the dream. And how dreams, they're funny. That little thought starts to creep into your consciousness. Is this real or is this a dream?
Right.
And when doubt creeps in, the dream vanishes. And then you try to hold on to what you were enjoying about it and it's gone. But I came out of that dream with this first verse: grits, bestest food there is.
Country caviar, Tennessee foie gras, grits, bestest food there is. You can keep cuisine, give me my grits.
Give me your grits.
I came out of the dream with country caviar, Tennessee foie gras. Those descriptions of grits, and I can't take credit for them. They were in the dream, and so God helped me write the lyric. But then I went ahead and finished the song, wrote the whole thing, from start to finish, and then we got with Jimmy Nichols in Nashville and decided that we could put together a group of country artists and have fun with it. And Ray Stevens, Laurie Morgan, Deborah Allen, the Gatlins, and the compliment of all, Dean, Miller, Roger Miller's
Roger Miller's son.
sings on the record with me, and he paid me the compliment of saying, you know, I can hear my dad writing this song.
Well, speaking of his dad, you know, back in the 90s, I lived near where he grew up. It was in Oklahoma. I was living in Elk City, Oklahoma. It was just down the road where Roger Miller grew up, Eric, Oklahoma. And that was his birthplace and where he grew up, about 40 miles away. And I was in radio then thinking of things I could do to set myself apart from other DJs. And I came up with this King of the Road thing. I started wearing this silly little hat around. Never got to meet Roger, but I did meet his son, Dean. What a fine man he is.
Very good young guy. And he was so complimentary and helpful, as was Ray Stevens and all the artists. We just had a ball making the record, and it you could hear it and the fun of it all. And then the video, a lady created a grits line dance, and that's helped get the thing on so much on Spotify and Pandora, all these services, because to learn the grits line dance, you have to listen to the record, and then you have to play the record to do the dance. And I had these things. I didn't know anything about line dancing. I knew it existed, but I tried to do a little of it on the video, but it would have taken me a month to have learned how to do it.
Well, do you ever stop and pinch yourself after 70 years in the entertainment business? Because you've seen a lot of changes. I mean, just in the last 20 years with the digital technology. And when you started, they just had the old phonograph records, and then the cassettes and 8 tracks. And now this digital thing is just blowing it wide open, and artificial intelligence coming up. I mean, what do you think about all these changes, Pat?
I used to kid Andy Williams about this, that we'd known each other for our whole careers back when we were recording on cylinders.
Yeah.
In some cases, you could put one in a player piano. But no, it was all discs when I first started, and all monaural. There was no, you couldn't go in and fix anything. If you were going to put out a record, it had to be a full take that you had done all at once. And if there were mistakes in it, but you felt it was the best take, you just left the mistakes in. And I did that in several records that I would like to, that were gold records, but I'd like to have gone back and changed a little thing here or there. But I didn't, because the feel of the record was in that particular take. And so those were, first it was discs, and then then there were the 33 1/3 discs, and then the 45s. And then we went to, to CD.
8 tracks and cassettes and CDs and DVDs and
all of that. I kept trying to come up with it.
Yeah.
And I recorded, and we put out all my records in all of those methods. But now the irony is, Jim, I've got 2 hit songs. One I wrote, the other with Crystal Gale.
Yeah.
And they're over country radio, but nobody's buying records. Now,
did you put out a vinyl copy of Country Jubilee?
Yeah. Well, it's funny you mention that, because
it's right there. There it is.
I have it. Who thought I might need this? But I'm telling you, Dana McElwain did a great job putting this package together.
Yeah, and those are really getting popular again.
Yeah, and it is vinyl. The only place, the real way we're selling records is letting people know that if they buy it, send it to me. I will autograph it with their name and mine and send it back to them. And thank God we're selling a few thousand records so far. They have to buy it, send it to me. I'll sign it and send it back. And by the way, we talk about your crown and King of the Road. I have a killer version of King of the Road. And while we don't have it on this album, we can't figure out other great country songs that we just had to pick and choose, because I've done so many of them over the years over the 70 years of my recording that we just chose what seemed it loomed off the pages at us. I love Alabama, My Own Texas Woman, Cold, Cold Heart, Last Date. I wrote the words for Floyd Kramer's Last Date. And of course, Red Foley songs, Steal Away, and Kalijah, Hank Williams. So just all of these songs I've been recording along the way because as we'll talk about, because I am a country guy. I grew up in the country, and we can talk about it.
Of course, I had to ask Pat about his days with Elvis Presley, the king of rock and roll. During the 50s, you had more #1 hits than Elvis himself.
Yes, 41 records. He had 40.
Yes.
But all, got to be truthful about it. I did have a 6-month head start on him.
Uh-huh.
But he and I matched each other record for record on the charts throughout the 50s. And I had 41 chart records and he had 40. After that, into the 60s, he took over. And I still kept on having some records, including chart records, but I had more than anybody in the 60s actual chart records because after 3 years, Elvis went to the Army.
Yeah.
And wasn't recording at all. And then the Beatles, after 3 years, began to just put out albums and not singles, not to mess around with singles. So I still kept going. So a record I hold in the record business is 4.5 years without ever being off the single charts on Billboard and Cashbox. I was always on the chart with at least one record, usually one going up, one going down, for 4.5 years. And I don't know if anybody's ever equaled that.
Yeah, I hear you were big competitors with Elvis, but actually became good friends. And I think you maybe even went to Graceland a time or two.
I did, not while he was there. My trips to Graceland have been since he left the building. A couple of the times at the annual, commemoration, I guess, of his birthday in August. And talking about the long relationship that we did share. But I never visited Graceland while he was there. But there was, when I did go there the first time after he was gone, there was an album in an album stand that had some of his favorite records there. One of them was Miles Davis, which I never understood.
Yeah.
How Elvis was a Miles Davis fan. Or if not a fan, at least he wanted to know what Miles Davis, where did his fame come from? And he was just as eclectic, Elvis, as I am and as I was. But there was an album, Pat Boone's Read the Bible, on his record, stand. And I was astonished by that he had a record of me reading the Bible, although we had many conversations, he and I, about our faith. The whole thing about this album, Jimmy, is why do we call America a country? America is a nation, all right, but it was created in the country. It was created by country people. Mm-hmm. Washington, Jefferson, Adams, they were farmers. And all the framers of the Constitution were not only farmers, but they were Bible people. And when we fought the British and the French, the farmers put down their hoes and agricultural tools, picked up their muskets, and they defeated the British and the French to create a country, not just a nation. There are lots of nations, but America is a country, and it's because we were created in the country by country people, and we've got to preserve this. We've got to keep it going.
Well, you're keeping your legacy alive, and 70 years in the entertainment business now, known for your music, but also you're an author, you're an actor, you've been in about 12 Hollywood movies. Any writing or acting going on these days?
Oh, yes. Yeah, in fact, I've just done 2 movies, and I die in both of them.
Oh,
One is a called The Mulligan, and it's done very well in theaters, but it did not have a big theatrical promotion, but it did well anyway, and it got
yeah.
awards in Canada in their film industry, the Inspirational Film of the Year, and I got Best Actor as a retired golf pro, and it has a gospel theme in it, and it's done very well. And then, of course, I just came from Minneapolis, where I've been playing Thomas Jefferson, our second president, who doubled the size of the United States with the Louisiana Purchase. And that's what it's Michael Medved wrote a book and now a script. I've also done another film I'm not supposed to talk about because it hasn't been publicized, that I have joined a really big cast in a film about a former president who I knew very well. But we haven't publicized the fact that I play a very unusual part in that film. So here I am at 89, and I just broke my hip, and that's why I'm sitting here in this chair right now.
Yeah.
But I'm recovering from it. And on a cane, I went on Mike Huckabee's show a couple of weeks ago and sang Grits and Closer Walk with Thee, although the show ran long in taping, so they haven't put that on yet. But the Red Foley song from this album, Just a Closer Walk with Thee, I did 3 of my father-in-law songs, or was it 4 Foley songs? Old Shep, you remember that great song, Old Shep? The Boy and His Dog. It makes you cry every time you hear it. It's Red Foley wrote it. It was about him and his dog Shep, about a boy having to face the possibility of having to put his boyhood chum away because he's too old to keep living. And that was the first song Elvis ever sang on a stage in high school, was Old Shep, Red Foley's song. So of course that's here in my Country Jubilee album, and I cry every time I hear it. It's that kind of a song. If you ever had a pet that you loved, then you'll love Old Shep in this album. But all these songs have histories, and with the artist Hank Williams, I do several Hank Williams songs, Cheating Heart, but we're already putting together a volume 2 of this because I've recorded actually probably more country songs than most country artists that you did nothing but country songs. But I kept doing them for the 70 years of my recording.
Well, you have a lot of fans here in Southeast Texas, where I'm calling you from. We're in the Golden Triangle, Beaumont, Port Arthur, and Orange. We've had our share of country stars from here. In fact, George Jones grew up around here. Tracy Byrd, Mark Chestnut, and Clay Walker. So we have a long legacy of country artists that emerged from here. And when I told people I was going to talk to you, they couldn't believe it. So you're definitely an icon.
Why they were surprised, they couldn't believe it. I've had people say, Pat Boone, I thought you had died.
Well, one person said that, and I corrected them. But I mean, speaking to you is like talking to an icon like Willie Nelson or Elvis if he was still alive. I mean, there's not many of you left.
Well, you know that Elvis, I think you probably know, Elvis was my opening act the first time we met.
Yeah, I read that.
In Cleveland at the Sock Hop, and he only had one record on Sun, and it was Blue Moon of Kentucky, Keep On Shining, a Bill Monroe song.
Uh-huh.
Like it was rhythm and blues and didn't quite succeed. But then the other side of the record was That's All Right, Mama, That's All Right with Me. And the kids loved that, but they didn't know who he was. I liked what I heard that night, particularly when he sang the R&B song. But that night, they didn't know who he was, so he got a nice hand. He left the stage. I went on. I had 3 hit singles at that point that I had recorded just that year from March of 55 to October of 55. So I was headlining the Sock Hop. And when he left the stage, I went on. I got all the screams because they knew who I was at that point. And when I came off, he was gone. But the next time we met, we were both renting homes in Bel Air. We were doing movies at 20th Century Fox and adjacent studios. And we were two Tennessee boys, me, Nashville, him, Memphis. And we stayed friends, visited each other's homes. In our case, we bought a home and he visited, but he rented them. And so we stayed in touch and involved with each other, the rest of his life. I have a little history with Beaumont. My parents invested in some oil wells in Beaumont when I was just a teenager, and we knew we were going to get oil rich, but it never happened. I don't know what happened, but I've never forgotten Beaumont. Anyway, good to talk to you, man. Congratulations on your success, and I like your crown. You've earned it.
Well, thank you so much, Pat. And I love your hat and I love your music. I love everything you're doing. And we're just going to keep supporting you here.
Okie doke. I'm going to do King of the Road on the next one.
Thank you, Pat. Let's talk again.
Okay, man. Thanks.
Thank you.